A North Carolina pastor is calling on churches to install flagpoles so that they can put the Christian flag above the American flag. There was a video posted on YouTube last week by Pastor Rit Varriale of Elizabeth Baptist Church, and he's going to explain why you should be putting the Christian flag over the American flag. Let's listen.
We've never had a flagpole on our campus. We have never had flags there in our sanctuary, at least in the last 10 years we haven't. But we put this flagpole in so that we can have a special ceremony this Sunday, Independence Weekend. We're going to raise two flags, the Christian flag and the American flag, except we're going to fly the American flag below the Christian flag as a symbol that we'll serve God before we serve government, especially a government that tries to coerce us to violate our commitments to God. When we put the flag in this order, or the flags in this order, we're simply saying three things. Number one, we're consistent with the Pledge of Allegiance. One nation, what? Under God. Second, we're consistent with our founding documents. All of our founding documents have in them the religious sentiments of the people, and we're simply reflecting that as well. And then third, and perhaps most important, we're being consistent with our beliefs. Acts chapters 4 and 5, very clear in the start of the early church. We ought to serve God rather than men.
So he is actually consistently wrong on each one of those counts. And I want to kind of go through why. Now, he said that, well, under what? Under God. Okay. Well, actually, the pledge was written back in 1892 by a socialist by the name of Francis Bellamy, with no mention to God in it. So when he wrote it, he didn't mention God. And it originally read, "I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all." So that's how the pledge originally read. Now, we made some additions to it over the years, and one of the more important ones was back in 1954, where the phrase "under God" was actually added to the pledge in response to those evil socialist communists that had no religion, those atheist communist a-holes over in the Soviet Union. So he's wrong there. So how else is he wrong? Well, he's wrong about the founding documents. In fact, according to John Adams, one of the founders, the government of the United States is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. That's what he says. Thomas Jefferson, the day will come when a mystical generation of Jesus by the Supreme Being in the womb of a virgin will be classed with the fable of the generation of Minerva in the brain of Jupiter. But we may hope that the dawn of reason and freedom of thought in these United States will do away with all this artificial scaffolding. Basically saying that, hey, you know, eventually we're going to consider the virgin birth and this whole Jesus nonsense as another fable, just like Minerva, God being born in the brain of Jupiter, another god. Basically saying it's all bullshit. Now, there's more. The Declaration of Independence, another founding document. The founding document. To secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Notice how it doesn't say God in there. That we don't actually get our powers, or the government doesn't get their powers from God. Interesting how it says that. In fact, only 4 times in the Declaration of Independence is there any reference at all to God or gods or anything like that. This includes laws of nature, nature's God, supreme judge of the world, their creator, and divine providence. And in all 4 cases, the references to any sort of higher power only appeal to the idea of inherent human dignity. Now, if you remember, Clarence Thomas actually ruled on that in his dissent for the same-sex marriage decision. But nonetheless, that's where it is. Their idea, written in the founding documents, says, well, that people get their inherent dignity from God, not from government. That's what it says. However, it never implies the role for a God in the government, according to this. Now, what about the Bible? He's not even being consistent with the Bible. The Bible says this: let every person be subject to the governing authorities. For there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. So wait a minute. This says, Romans 13:1-7. It says that if you have a government, chances are God set it up. And God's kind of running it behind the scenes. So does that mean that God's running America and God was running the Supreme Court? And guess what? If God was running the Supreme Court, that means God is absolutely cool with same-sex marriage. I mean, by your logic, that's how it is. If you follow that logic, if you follow the Bible's logic, that's where you end up. Because if God didn't will it, it wouldn't happen, right? Exactly. Now, it continues actually from Romans 13:1-7. Therefore, whoever resists the authorities resists what God has appointed. So you better not go against the law. I'm just saying. In fact, I'm not just saying. The Bible's saying. And those who resist will incur judgment. Be subject for the Lord's sake to every human institution, which means obey your government. Whether it be to the emperor as supreme or to governors as sent by him to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. That's Peter 2:13-17. So yeah, this guy. And not only that, he's wrong on those 3 points. But for me, what I think personally is I think it's ridiculous to put a Christian flag above the American flag. You know what that says to me? That you're not a patriot. That you don't believe in America. That you don't love America. That you'd rather love God before America. Well, you're a citizen of America, not a citizen of heaven. It doesn't make any sense. I mean, what are you trying to say? That my God is more important than the Constitution. My God is more important than the country. So if I don't like a rule that my country says, despite what the Bible says about that, I'm just not going to follow it. I'm not going to follow it. Why? Because my sky God tells me. I don't like where this is going, so you know what? I'm just going to show how un-American I am by putting a flag of God up above the American flag. It's very disrespectful. It's actually disrespectful to everything America stands for. These fundamentalists are disrespectful to America, to the founding fathers, to the documents that they say they still revere.